Chapter 32. Time passes quickly. Naruto sat in the hospital room with his adopted daughter laying next to him, her head resting on his shoulder. The blonde man was smiling though as he held a little bundle in his arms. His wife had given birth to a beautiful baby girl that they named Carrie. The man just looked at the baby with a smile. "You're so beautiful, Carrie, so just like with Makoto, daddy will keep all the demon boys away." He looked over at the resting form of his wife with a smile as he remembered his wedding day. Flashback. The blonde man stood at the head of the aisle with a smile at what was going to happen. Today was the day he would marry the woman that he loved and accidentally knocked up. Standing next to him was Iruka while on the other side of the aisle was Shizune. They were the best man and maid of honor since Tayayu and Naruto weren't too close with the others their age. Ever since Tayayu had shown him what a real friend was supposed to be, his relationship with the others became strained. He always kept his bond with certain people though, namely Iruka, Shizune, Konohamaru and Tsunade. Everyone else could do what they wanted as long as they didn't interfere in his life. They had decided to have their adopted daughter be their flower girl while Konohamaru was their ring bearer. Finally the song started to play and Tayayu started to walk down the aisle being escorted by Gaara. They didn't know who to ask since they didn't have Jiraiya anymore. If the pervert was still alive he would have been the only choice for their wedding. Yes, he was a pervert but he was lovable and at certain times even respectable. Naruto smiled at her as she came down the aisle towards him. When she got there Naruto took her hand from Gaara and led her to stand in front of Tsunade. They went through the process and then turned to face the small crowd they had invited. There was the Sunagaku friends that they had in Gaara, Matsuri, Tamari, Konkuro and Baki. A few other Konohagakure people such as the Ichirakus, Kakashi, a crying Sasuke and unfortunately the council. Their reception was even smaller. Naruto couldn't kick people out of the actual wedding but he could kick them out of the reception. That being said, Kakashi and the council were kicked out of the reception, Naruto giving them both reasons. For Kakashi it was, "You were a terrible sensei, all you cared about was your precious Uchiha. You failed me as a teen but you will not be given the chance to fail me or my family as an adult. Please leave my wedding without causing incident." Though the words were harsh, the silver-haired Junin accepted his decision and left. Naruto looked at the council. "I shouldn't even have to explain this to you but after the childhood you put me through I want you nowhere near my family. If you try anything with my family or my child when she is born I will let Tayayu strangle you with your own intestines." They left baffled that the man had said such a thing. Makoto had gotten to meet her biological uncle while Naruto watched carefully. Not surprisingly Sasuke came to Naruto later the night. "Naruto, you should let me care for Makoto, she is an Uchiha with the Sharingan." Naruto shook his head. "No, I promised your brother I would care for her and in all honesty I don't feel I could trust you with her. Your pathological need to avenge your clan and kill Itachi could leak onto her and it's a risk I refuse to take. You will be allowed to see her when I am there to supervise her as I would not separate her from family. Do we have an understanding, Sasuke?" The two just stared at each other for a moment, then Sasuke nodded his head before rejoining Suigetsu at their table. The rest of the reception was good. Unfortunately he had to dance with no only Tayayu but with Makoto. He didn't care for dancing but for them he could suffer for today. End flashback. Naruto smiled before he put Carrie in her rolling bed the hospital had provided them. They would go home tomorrow and hopefully things would go well. He would rather take care of his family there than at a hospital. As he sat there watching over everyone his red-headed wife opened her eyes. She looked over at him to see him smiling at their youngest daughter, Naruto-kun. That snapped him out of it and he quickly turned his attention over to her giving her a light smile. He got up from the chair slowly, making sure to adjust Makoto to be sleeping in the chair still. Naruto gave her a kiss on the forehead before smiling at her. "Tayayu, you should be resting, you need your sleep." The woman scoffed then kissed him. "I am fine, I have plenty of energy." Her husband just shook his head at her then smiled. "If you say so, Koi." Tayayu gave him a smile as she pulled him into her bed to snuggle into him. Naruto smiled as he put his arm around her to hold her close to his chest. She kissed his neck a couple times then leaned up by his ear. "Tomorrow we are having sex sometime." The man smiled then looked at her. "Oh, we are, huh?" She nodded her head. "Yes we are and you don't get a choice in it." He rose his eyebrow at that. How the hell does that work? You're not pregnant anymore, so you can't say you're hormonal anymore. Tayayu laughed, then licked his earlobe. We have been toning it down because of Makoto, but I want sex. I get what I want when it comes to you. You're whipped, so don't even try to deny it. Naruto smiled at her as he remembered the reason they calmed themselves down with their physical appreciation of each other. Flashback. Naruto and Tayayu finished using the shower after their discussion about the night before. They seemingly forgot that they had a 6-year-old in the house. One that was attracted by noise and put on alert from her mother screaming, "Oh God!" repeatedly. When they exited the bathroom with only towels on them, they saw Makoto standing there with her kunai out and Sharingan ablaze. Naruto looked at his daughter. "Makoto, what are you doing, sweetie?" His daughter went into the bathroom and investigated. "I was worried," Ka-san kept screaming, "Oh God." "So I didn't know if something was wrong. I wanted to make sure both Ka-san and Tu-san were okay." Naruto looked over at his fiancée, who had a red face that matched her hair. The man looked at his daughter. "Well, you see, when your Ka-san and Tu-san are alone." He was interrupted by a smack to the back of his head. "Don't tell her about that kind of stuff yet, shithead." Naruto looked at her. "Am I supposed to lie to her?" Tayayu nodded her head quickly. "I don't need my daughter knowing about that stuff yet, so just keep your fat mouth shut." The blonde smirked. "You weren't complaining about my mouth earlier." If her face could have gotten any redder, then it would have. His shit-eating grin showed just how much he enjoyed teasing her. Naruto winked at her, then looked at Makoto. "We were just showing each other how much we love each other, Makoto. There is nothing to fear. You're safe here with us." The small girl nodded her head before she left to go and do her own things while Naruto and Tayayu got dressed. Naruto looked at Tayayu as she got dressed and smiled. "You know you look gorgeous when you blush, Tayayu-hime." End flashback. Naruto smirked at her. "As long as can keep your voice down, Tayayu-chan. We don't need both our daughters wondering why you're screaming, 'Oh God!' so much." Her blush returned as she looked at him. "Shut up, shithead-kun." The man smirked some more, then leaned in to kiss his wife passionately. When they broke the kiss, they saw Makoto moving in the chair before her eyes opened. She looked to see Naruto and Tayayu laying in the bed smiling at her. Makoto quickly got up, then wrapped her arms around her mother's neck. "Ka-san, you're awake." Tayayu smiled as she held her eldest daughter. "Yes, dear, I was just tired because your father is an idiot who got me pregnant." The man rolled his eyes, then muttered out, "You're the one who wouldn't let me keep my pants on for longer than 8 hours. Tayayu glared at him with a growl coming from her throat. "I will gut you, Naruto-kun." Naruto just smirked, then kissed her gently until Makoto said, "Ew." Tayayu looked at her daughter. "You know, before I met your father I used to think like that too, Makoto. Just wait until you meet the right guy and then you won't think that." Makoto quickly shook her head. "No, I will never want to kiss a guy." Her father nodded her head in agreement. "I agree, you should never want to kiss a guy, Makoto dear. They are evil, so I will keep them away from you and Carrie." His wife just shook her head. "You're being just a bit overprotective, Naruto-kun." The man smirked. "No such thing. Let me go ask the nurse for another bed for Makoto to sleep on tonight. I will be right back." They both nodded, so he left the room. While he was off finding a nurse to get them another roll bed, Makoto was looking at her little sister. "She looks like you, Ka-san." Tayayu smiled. "She has a little bit of red on the top of her head, so I think she will be a redhead, but she has your dad's eyes." Makoto smiled as Carrie opened her eyes and smiled at her. Makoto looked at Carrie. "I will be an amazing big sister. I will make everyone else look like they suck at it." Her mother just laughed a bit. "Sweetie, we already knew that you were going to do that." The black-haired girl smirked, then looked back as Naruto came through the door with the nurse behind him. They brought in an extra bed for Makoto before the family turned in for the evening. When the next day came, they went home and things got easily into a routine for them to make life easier. The fact that the blonde knew the shadow clone jutsu made their life much easier. Naruto and Tayayu had resumed their appreciative activities, but with silencing seals on their room. That would make it so that their daughters didn't know what they were up to until they were older. Tayayu had also had a seal put on her by Tsunade that prevented another pregnancy for now. She was sure they would have another child eventually, but for now they had other things to deal with, such as the remaining Akatsuki members. The leader was still out there and both of them wanted the revenge for Jiraiya. The thing was that since they had kids now they couldn't be reckless like that. They had to consider the consequences of their actions before they do something like that, so Tayayu thought they should talk about it. Currently Tayayu was laying her head on his chest after a passionate night of love-making. Naruto-kun. Naruto made a sound to let her know that he was listening. We need to talk about what we are going to do about Akatsuki and that pain guy. I know we both want revenge, but we have responsibilities now. Naruto stroked her side a bit. I know, Tayayu-koi. I promise I won't go looking for them, but if they come looking for us I will do everything to protect you and our daughters. Though I am ecstatic we have a family, it also means I have more weaknesses for them to exploit. Tayayu nodded her head in understanding, then kissed his chest. As long as you know that you have responsibilities and that I will kick your ass if you die. The man smirked. I don't know. I think it would be a bit difficult. Even for you, babe. She glared at him. You think so, huh? Naruto smirked. Yeah, love, but I am sure that if anyone is that damn stubborn, it's you. His wife just smirked, then kissed his chest again. Damn straight, Naruto-kun. Let's get some sleep before one of our daughters wakes up. The man nodded his head with a smile before he pulled her closer to him and closed his eyes. They both fell asleep quickly like most new parents do, catching up on whatever sleep they could. To be continued.